Are you curious about bodies, pleasure, and possibilities? And what about curious about what others are up to on the planet when it comes to pleasure, sex, and play? Have you considered what pleasure can do for your life, your body, and your bank account? Do you know something magical, delightful, and out of this world orgasmic is not only possible for you, but totally available to you? If you're ready to be the magical, sexual, sexy beast you know you can be, and you just need the tools to get there, you're in the right place. Now, here's the host of The Pleasure Zone, sensual movement artist, relationship and sex alchemist, Milica Jelenic.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to The Pleasure Zone, my sweet, sweet pleasure seekers. Tonight, we are having a very fun conversation with the woman who actually officiated my wedding. Yes, I know some of you forget that I'm married because I'm always getting offers for marriage online, but I am married and I got proof. Janice married me. Not me. She was officiated my wedding. I got proof. It's true. It happened, people, even though a lot of you don't believe me. It's true. So tonight, I'm going to be speaking with Reverend Janice Chrysler about what is the divine feminine. The divine feminine is a pretty vague, mysterious term that you probably hear floating around. You've probably read it in a few self-help books. You've probably read it in different things on history. And the cool thing is it is so vague in that there are so many definitions that we can have a really cool conversation about this because there's so many different ways to approach it. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Janice before we jump into this conversation. And for those of you who are listening and you'd like to jump in and you have questions like, I don't know, my whole life I've never felt like very feminine. How do I do that? And you might have that accent when you call us, and that's cool. And by all means, call in, have questions. We love that. So who is Janice and why am I speaking with her? Well, one of the reasons is I was interviewed by Janice just recently for International Women's Day, as Janice has been an organizer of an event in our town of Mamre, for I think it's like 11 or 12 years now, but I'll let Janice confirm that for me. 10 years?
Well, since actually
years.
about 8. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Seems longer,
evolved,
but
right?
yeah.
Now it's called Women in Wellness. So it had a name before that because I think you had some events going for International Women's Day before that as well. So I think Ziva was 2 the very first time there was an International Women's Day event in our town. And so Janice has always been all about community and also all about finding different ways to bring people together. And that is one of the definitions of divine feminine, is somebody who's looking to create community and the energy of community creation, nurturing. And Women in Wellness kind of embraces all of that. So who better to talk to than a woman who's actually created events that are dedicated to this? So over the past 15 years, Reverend Janice Chrysler has been using her intuitive gifts, experience, and training as a certified hypnotherapist, Metaphysical Minister, Reiki Master, author, and meditation facilitator to hold space for those seeking balance of mind, body, and spirit. Janice has always had a passion for supporting women's rights at home and in the workplace. Women in Wellness Expo is her most cherished event, which is held in celebration of International Women's Day today, people, and it brings together amazing women in the holistic and wellness services every March. It is a place where they can meet, chat, learn, and support the divine feminine. So there's actually a lot of interviews that Janice did over the last month that have been going out this week. For those of you who'd love to see those interviews with the different holistic practitioners doing different things, like ranges from people who do body work, energy work, writing books, making jewelry, and even things like people who make different things like soaps and stuff, right? So there's a really wide range in that work. And we can actually link you in so that you'll be able to find all those interviews. And you can find that actually on Facebook through Women in Wellness. And I think you can find it on YouTube as well. Is that right, Janice?
Yeah, it is. It's on my channel that I have for Mindful Journey. It's on there too.
Okay, so look for Mindful Journey on YouTube and you'll be able to find all the interviews there as well. So Whether it is taking part in the online workshops or private sessions via Zoom, you can listen to Janice's guided meditations through her Insight Timer and weekdays on Facebook by reading her books, Make It Happen and Sally's Closet. And I have to tell you that a couple of years, I think it's 2 or 3 years ago, Ziva, my daughter Ziva, won this really cool basket of things from Janice. And she had like incense and the Make It Happen book. And there was like, I think there's some cards or something in there. Anyway, Ziva turned it into her altar, which is still in her room on her thing. She's got her Make It Happen book, sits there with her incense, which is like gold. So it sits there and it gets burned occasionally, but only when the house feels really weird to her. So that's cool. This is very specific uses of these things. So she's had that since she was like 9 or 10. So you're never too young to make it happen. That's for sure. So if you're thinking of gifts for people and you're thinking, I don't really know what to get, even if it's a child, you'd be surprised. Kids are into all kinds of things that would shock you these days. So they're actually looking to create greater in the world. One of the things that I didn't mention that is being offered is that for anybody who's buying one of the audiobooks of Janice's from Sally's Closet, she's actually offering 50% of her proceeds to Three Oaks Foundation and the Sexual Assault Center. So Three Oaks Foundation is for our Tri-County area. And I'll let you talk a little bit about that, Janice, so that people know where, when they're investing in your audiobook, where this money will be going. So I want to welcome you and say thank you so much for being my guest after all these years. It's amazing. I don't even know how it happened that we haven't had any conversations yet. So thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, I guess it's just because we know each other and that's what I really enjoyed about this last month when I was interviewing all these wonderful people that have taken part in the Women in Wellness. It was really a chance to get to know them better, how they got into what they do. And because really when we have the event, everybody's so busy that often we don't have that chance to really get to know each other a little better. So, but thank you very much. I really am looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, me too. What I really liked about this year's event, I mean, I really love the in-person events. It's like the thing that I really love, bodies and being able to be with bodies. But what I like about this one is that it's like it's never ending. So these interviews are going to be available in a month from now or 6 months from now. So if you're listening to this program right now, this is March 8th, 2021. But if you're listening to this in like 2024, you can go to the Mindful Journey site on YouTube and you can still listen to these interviews. Hopefully we're all still alive that have been interviewed, but you never know, right? We'll just go, yes, we're all going to be alive.
We'll be here in spirit if we're not.
That's right. We'll haunt you after you listen to us.
We'll find you.
There you go. So Janice, what is it, when I invited you to be on the show, actually, when you invited me to have a topic to talk about, and we came up with the topic that was the reclamation of the divine feminine. And then as we started talking on the interview, it was like, let's just talk about this because we're talking about this forever. So what had you go, yeah, this is what I really want to talk about this for an hour with Milica. Why?
Well, I can talk about just about anything for an hour. But I think I realized on my own personal journey that it was coming to understand the divine energy that within us all, the concept that our soul, if you will, has this balance of masculine and feminine energies, and getting my head past that it's man-woman thing, that's more the qualities that make up the divine energy, and that acceptance of that in our life. I think growing up as I did, I was born in the late 50s, but, I say I grew up in the 60s and 70s, when you kind of get in your teen years and things, was right when women's lib was going on, and the realization when I went to get a job that I wasn't going to get paid the same as a man, and those sorts of things, or just the attitudes towards women as far as sexual assault went, and she must have been asking for it, and why was it different for me than a guy, and then why is it that if a woman had a lot of strength and power, that somehow that was frowned on. And we've come a long way with that. We have a long way to go too. But in the same flip side of that, if a man was passionate and kind, what was wrong with that? So I started to get my head wrapped around it. It's more the energy. It's this nurturing energy that's the divine feminine. And then we need that in our lives, regardless of gender. It's really not to do with that. And I can see where that's so important. And if we want to make change in this world, really, it's got to come back to accepting that it was at one time in the world, and somehow that got lost, and that's a whole other story. But it's time to bring it back, but bring it back balancing with the masculine. It's okay, and actually that's what we should, I think, aim for, is to have that balance in our life, in all aspects of our life. And I had to kind of work through that myself to understand my path I was taking, and to realize that it's okay to be a strong woman, and you don't want to lose the compassion and kindness to be that way, So that's kind of what got me into this, and I'm still working on that, to work through all that, and with other people as well.
So when you talk about working on that, what does that look like for you? What are some of the things that you do as a practice to invite the energy of the divine feminine?
Oh, meditation is key for me. And that's what kind of got me started on my path was, way back in the day when I was growing up, I grew up in a Christian household that we had our prayers every night and said grace at every meal. And it wasn't a rigid kind of thing, but it was a meaningful thing. It was, and I was always raised by my mom that God, if you will, was neither male nor female, but this perfect blend of both. She was kind of ahead of her time in her thinking, I think. And so that helped me that way. But then I expanded into meditating, where I took that time to really listen, to really feel for myself. I like to feel the energy. And so to me, having a meditation practice is very important to help me get to know myself, to get to know my purpose, and how to work that into my life, and that feeling of being worthy to receive the divine energy as well, and not feel as though there's something wrong with that, because there's still part of my subconscious mind. I was raised in a church where God was always referred to as the Father in a masculine energy. So to accept a divine energy in, there's still just a little tiny piece in there that every once in a while will come forward and say, what are you thinking? So I just say, be quiet, go away, and start working through it a little bit more.
Was there ever a time when you were first sort of recognizing that there's this energy, as your mom was like, well, it's neither, and you were saying that there's still this kind of niggly voice that goes on in your head, like, it's this thing? And so was there a time where you just, through your self-discovery, that you started to realize that there was something that had actually created that belief in you, that had you go, okay, well, other than the upbringing, is there something more that contributed to that belief that you were able to then change that? Does that question make sense to you?
I think.
Okay.
I guess as I started to open my mind up to other ways of thinking, and other belief systems when it came to that. And I think that's the one thing I had to do, was to be okay with thinking outside the box and talking to people, listening to people, not in a judgmental way, and to be okay with asking questions, because I had a hard time with that for when I was growing up, to feel as though I could ask questions about things, because usually I was just told that this is the way things are and you don't ask questions, that somehow that was wrong, which was not a good thing for me, because I always ask questions. My mom would say that I drove her crazy as a kid, because I'm one of these why kids, I guess. But I always wanted to know why. And it wasn't because I was finding fault with anything. It was just, well, why do you think that way? I want to find out why you think that way. And then when I finally started asking myself, what is it you believe? Janice Chrysler, what is it you believe? Not what someone told you to believe. And so then I realized I didn't have an answer for that. So I had to start what they say, soul searching. So I really did. In my meditations, I just worked at opening my mind up to the endless possibilities that are there. And one of the things really that I have learned so much from since I started this path back in 2005 when I started Mindful Journey, through the people that I've met. I'd like to think I helped them, but they have taught me so much by sharing their stories with me. And I've really learned that if you can sit and listen to people with an open mind, hold space, that you not only help them, but you learn so much too. And I could see that in people, that there was this usually a struggle to bring that balance of masculine and feminine into their life on some level. And so I just really, for myself, just started to look more into that. And it came as well through, like, for myself, I believe in past lives. So I had some things that came through there that explained a lot of these fears and these doubts. And, so, and I found that with other people as well.
Those past lives can get us for sure. And so for those of you who are like, well, how do I know if I got a past life? You could actually contact Janice, because she does hypnotherapy and she can take you through that to that. Yeah. So that is an option. We're going to be heading to our first commercial break. So you're listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we will be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet, sweet pleasure seekers. So I know usually we talk about all things like getting down and dirty on the show, but guess what? If you can't connect with the divine feminine and the divine masculine, you're not getting too down and dirty.
No way.
So we're kind of getting to some fundamentals here today, especially with what Janice was talking about, meditation. Heck, if you can actually be in your body and be present, which you hear me talk about 100,000 times a show, that's key. Because guess what? If you actually notice your body, you can have fun with it. But if you don't even notice you have one, what are you going to do? You're going to bump into things. You're going to get bruises, and you're going to feel weird, and you're going to get sick, and you're going to be kind of discombobulated, right? So meditation, as Janice was talking about, was what got her in touch with the divine feminine for her. So everybody's got a way. For me, I did it through movement. I needed a lot of movement in my life. So I danced from the time I was like 4 till I was 19 or 20. And then I did other dance, like goddess dance. And then I did martial arts, and I did all kinds of things that invited my body to movement in different ways. And still to this day, when I feel disconnected, my first thing to do is like dance like nobody's watching. But also I like to dance folklore. Yes, folklore turns me on. So I will put on some old school Serbian folklore and bust moves like there's no tomorrow, because it makes me happy. And then, the family's like, oh Lord, here she goes. She's got the Serbian music going. Yes, I do. It's not the sexiest dancing, people, but it's definitely connects me to my body. So everybody's got their way. You got to find your way, and you got to start to look at that and start to choose more into it, right? So if you're feeling like this is a really uncomfortable topic, and surprisingly, there'll be people that are listening right now who are thinking that divine feminine is an incredibly uncomfortable topic. But if I were to talk about blowjobs, you'd all be like, this is so comfortable. But you won't even connect to the energies that we're talking about. So let's make it a little deeper instead of just like the level of those bodies coming together. And you know that I'm a big fan of that pleasure is 99% energetic and like 1% physical. But if you can't connect to that 1% physical, you're not going to feel it. So we're going to get into that more today. Even if Janice is like, what did I sign up for? I'm a reverend, damn it. She's making me talk about all kinds of stuff.
Hey, I'm a metaphysical one. That's why.
That's
I'm okay.
So true. So in your life, can you just give us some examples of how the divine feminine, using that in your life and inviting more of that in as a daily practice, has actually improved maybe relationships or your work? Like, what is it actually, how has it benefited you?
I think, again, just understanding that it's within everyone. And so I just love the one word, namaste. God in me recognizes the God in you. And you can say that, like, whether you mean that to be the divine energy or if you want to put a label on it. I'm like you, everything to me is energy. And when it comes together and we allow it to come together, magical things can happen. And it does start with how we think about things. That's why for me, meditation has become so important, because if I start feeling all flustered and stressed and I just take those breaths and start to remind myself that I am this divine feminine energy, and I'm also this masculine energy, I'm just this one, and I'm worthy. I think that's, for me, that's what came into a lot of it, was I didn't realize that I put myself down a lot when I was younger. And it was actually my husband that pointed that out to me. He says, why do you always say that about yourself? And I thought I was just joking. And then I realized you start to believe that. And like, to a lot of other people, I was coming across as a strong person, very confident, but inside I wasn't. That ego was saying, you can't do that. Why would you want to do that? And girls don't do that. All those kind of things that you maybe were brought up hearing or something. And so I decided, I'm going to grab a hold of that goddess there. There's a lot of energy and a lot of real strength in that. And the more I kind of actually read about different cultures and their goddess energies and what they represented, I thought, yes, I'm onto that. I can do that. I want to get that breastplate and that and that sword, and not really hurt anybody, but I want to get that strength there. And it's okay to be nurturing. And we need that, So I think, unfortunately, like, when you see where I talked about, in the 60s and 70s, when women were trying to get equality in the workplace and struggling with that, it was like they were trying to act like men, only better, to get in there. And when really they just needed to bring out more of the goddess energy and be who they truly were. And I mean, you need the masculine in there too. And some of the men needed to have more of that divine energy in there and soften up a bit. It's okay to cry. It's okay to hug your children, and I'm so glad to see that in a lot more now with the guys coming up, when they see, young men with their babies, taking care of them and all this sort of thing. And I know that might sound kind of weird, but it just showing me that, times have changed and attitudes towards things. And I think that's great. It's not about being a man or a woman. It's allowing these energies to flow through us. And I think when you get that perfect balance, that's when you find that pure, unconditional love, because it's not a competition anymore. And I don't know if that even answered your question, but anyway.
Well, right at the very end, you said, and then it's not a competition anymore. And I think that's a very interesting energy, because right there is where we've had on the planet for millennia, there's been a war between the feminine and the masculine, trying to, suppress one or trying to validate another one. And there hasn't been a lot of acknowledgement of both simultaneously, right? So it's when we move past the whole that warring energy that's going on, or trying to prove, like, we got to prove we exist, you got to work harder. I know that my mom talks about, she had me in 1975, but growing up for her in the 60s and then getting her first job, she was just telling us about, well, she loves telling stories about oppression, because she's like all about that, like, and then this happened to us back in the day. And she has good ones, and they're all true. And one of them is that her very first job, she was 20 some years old, 23 or 24 years old, 23, I think. She was not able to get her own bank account without having a man sign for her. And to this day, that enrages her. When she thinks about it, she's ready to just go slaughter the world. So
I can relate.
yeah,
It's the same thing.
Yeah. So you had, what year was that for you, Janice? Like,
well,
that would have
I
been
had
the
my
late 70s, or?
Well, no, before that, like when my first job would have probably been around 1970. And I can remember I was a teenager and I was working with the same place my dad did. And he was telling me, as a parent now, I could see I'd probably give my kids the same, you behave yourself because it's my reputation, and all of this. But then I remember him saying to me, well, you're very lucky because you're going to make the same wage as these other people there. I was doing housekeeping. So I was cleaning, in my head, I'm cleaning the same toilets as all the rest of them. Why wouldn't I make the same as them? And then he went on to say about how men make more money than women. Well, that got me, because I never even thought of that. And I said, why would a man get more for this job than me? Well, he's got a family to look after. I says, well, what if I had a family to look after and I didn't have a husband? Well, that got a whole other topic, to go into. But that was a mindset. And it was kind of like, I didn't need to get paid as much because if I got married, I'd probably be staying home. And I can remember having job interviews where I was young, and I was young when I got married. But I went in to this one and they said, so how old are you? And blah, blah, blah. And so you're married. How are you going to get to work? Who's looking after your children? Are you going to have any more children? And it was in nothing to do with whether I was qualified for this job I was applying for. It was all to do whether I was going to go off having babies and things.
Wow.
And what does your husband think about you going to work? I imagine he's going to be glad we have some more money coming in the house,
And these would be totally unethical questions nowadays, right? Like, if you asked that from HR, you'd be fired
instantly. And so I was just actually a few years ago when I had this conversation with my husband. He's very supportive about this, but he just honestly said, I said, I understand it, but I don't understand it. Like and I said, well, let me put it this way. So I said, when we were exactly the same age, I said, when you went in for a job, did they ask you what your wife thought about you getting this job? Did they ask you how you were going to get to work? What if your children were sick? Were you going to stay home with them? Since they didn't even ask me if I had any kids or anything. I said, exactly. And I said, there was a lot of people didn't get jobs because of that. And I worked in a place when they found out this woman was pregnant, they fired her. So, like you said, thank God you can't get away with that now, although places do try to in different ways. But yeah, it's just a whole different, and knowing that going in for that job, you weren't going to get paid as much and on all that sort of thing just infuriated me.
Still infuriates me.
Yeah. So I was, and still, I had a couple of years ago. So here I am, 60 years old. I'm going in to get a car. And I've worked since I was 12, I think, at something. And so I said to my husband, because usually he does all that kind of stuff, but I said, I want this car to be actually in my name and me do it all. I said, I know it doesn't matter to either one of us, but it does to me. And so I went in there and they wouldn't give it to me until they had all his information too, even though I qualified for everything.
Yeah.
For a loan, it wasn't, and oh, he looked at me and he could tell I must have had smoke coming out my ears.
100%.
And as soon as I got out of the car, he just kind of sighed. I think he knew it was coming. And I just vented all the way home. And I said, and I'd reach over, I know it's not you, dear, but and then I just give it, and it just isn't right. I said, at my age, I said, that's stupid. Absolutely stupid. But anyway.
When my husband got a car a few years ago, they did not ask what my income was or the fact that I was the homeowner and he was not at the time. That was not even an issue. No, because I didn't qualify, right?
Yeah.
But you had to like this. Isn't it funny? Like this still goes on, and that just annoys the crap out of me. We're supposed to be in a new millennia, people. Like this is not. This is insane in my mind that these are things that my great grandmother would have gone through. That why is this still happening today? But that's a whole other angry conversation.
That's a whole other women's rights thing. But
yeah, and for those of you who are like, oh no, she's going into women's rights, I won't listen to her anymore. Yeah, don't. It's okay. You can stop listening if that really bothers you. I actually had a few people do that. When I put that, there was a post I put up for my daughter, wrote this incredible thing. I was like floored by what she wrote, so I put it on social media. And I had a few people who actually unfriended me after, you don't actually believe what your daughter said. I said, fuck yeah, I do. And I support her 100%. So if you have an issue with this, don't talk to me. I'm good with that. Don't need you.
Well, I think what's very important, and I know we're probably getting off a bit here, but when it comes to like women's rights, actually the movement that women have had for the over 100 years trying to get equality, it isn't just for themselves, it's for everyone. It's not just women having rights, it's everyone having equal rights, having equal pay for equal work, and the right to, they're the ones that looked into when children were being abused in the workforce. They stopped that, and the long hours and all this sort of thing for working. And if it wasn't for those women taking to the streets and fighting for those rights affect everybody. So I think that is the divine energy, because it's that nurturing, caring energy that they want to do what's right for the family, for the people. Masculine energy is great, but it's more of a get in there and fight, and it's more for me. But this one, the nurturing part of the divine energy, is for everyone's well-being. So I think that's why we need to really bring that part out, because we've pretty much proven that a lot of the masculine energy, the fighting and everything else, is not going so well for the world. So it's time to switch gears a little bit here.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. We're gonna stew and ruminate over these thoughts, and just like meditate for 3 minutes while the commercial's on. So, actually, Janice, when we come back from a commercial, would it be fun for you to take the listeners through like a short meditation so they can know what is it like to tap into the divine feminine?
Sure.
Awesome. So everybody, you are listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Interested in masturbating for money, copulating for consciousness, and pleasuring on purpose? 21 Days of Sexual Magicism with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic is an exploration of tools, processes, and actions that you can use to create more for your life, your body, your money inflows, and so much more. Graduated learning for all levels of interest. Learn at your own pace via video classes or join the yearly live class. Take a peek at www.milicajelenic.com.
This is the Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet, sweet pleasure seekers. We are having a conversation today about the divine feminine with Reverend Janice Chrysler, who is the Reverend who officiated my wedding. Yeah.
Yep.
So for those of you who got to witness that on Facebook, you were lucky. It was on video and my dress ripped. It was very romantic. And every time we discuss the wedding, that's the first thing that my daughter brings up. Remember how you ripped your dress? I'm like, I got married that day, girlfriend, but the dress was very important to you. So give her credit. I mean, it was funny. So what I asked Janice for just before break was, because Janice Janice kind of known in our area as the meditation lady. So she held meditation classes, she does them at events. So I would love it if Janice could share meditation for tapping into the divine feminine with us here for International Women's Day. How fabulous is that? So if you're driving, maybe do this when you stop driving and go back and listen to the podcast or the recording, but by all means, just enjoy her voice while we do this. I'm going to tap into the meditation, so I'll be closing my eyes. And so if you guys are all looking at me like, what's she doing? She's sleeping. No, I'm meditating, people. Okay, go ahead, Janice. Take it away.
Okay, we'll just do a short one here. And for those of you who haven't meditated before, no tools required, just your body and your mind. So just close your eyes and take a long, slow, deep breath in through your nose. And then slowly exhale through your mouth. Feel your body relax. You're made to relax when you breathe like that. Breathe in deeply again. And as you exhale, feel the muscles in your body relaxing and letting go. Take in one more long, slow, deep breath. And this time as you exhale, be sure to drop your shoulders. Feel your muscles soften and let go. Bring your awareness inward to your breath. Be aware of its gentle going in and going out at your own rhythm. We don't take time enough to even recognize our own body, how it feels, how it moves, how it breathes. You may even wish to say to yourself, I am breathing in, I am breathing out. You can use that as a mantra. With every exhalation, your body becomes more relaxed, more at peace. Bring your awareness to the very top of your head. And as you exhale, imagine that breath moving down your face, the back of your head, and all the muscles there relaxing and letting go. On your next breath, your exhalation moves down your throat, your neck. Feel your breath move across your shoulders and down your arms, your hands, and your fingertips. Letting go. Being aware of how your body feels, but not trying to do anything, just allowing the breath to relax the muscles. And you bring your awareness down your chest and stomach area, letting all the muscles there relax. Bring your awareness to the top of your spine, and as you exhale, it moves all the way down your spine, spreading across your back, your lower back. Allow your breath to move down your abdominal area, down your thighs, into your feet, and letting go. Now, feel your connection to the earth by imagining that your feet are planted firmly on the ground. You feel the warmth of the earth and the softness of the grass beneath your feet. There are roots coming out of the bottom of your feet, going deeper and deeper into the earth. They go to the very center of the earth and wrap themselves around a beautiful orange topaz. And now when you breathe in, you draw up this orange light up the roots of your feet, up your legs, and they settle in the energy center, your sacral chakra, that's located just below your navel, in your reproductive area. And this beautiful orange light warms that part of your body. Man or woman, it awakens within you the divine energy, because this energy center is about creation. And that creation can be doing those things in your life that bring you joy, that bring you happiness, that define who you are. Maybe you haven't sensed that in a while. We call upon the divine energy to awaken within us as we ask ourselves the question, who am I? Who am I? We get so busy in our lives that we don't even realize if we're talking words that are our truth, or is it the truth of someone else? Are we doing a job or living a life that brings us fulfillment? Or is it what we think we should be doing? Allow now for that orange light to warm that part of your body, to awaken that energy center, to awaken the divine feminine within you. And then begin to breathe that light up through your body, allowing it to move through every cell of your being. Accept it, welcome it in. The masculine doesn't have to go away. Just step to the side and allow the feminine to come up. As it moves up your body, awakening the other energy centers, it does so with love and compassion, helping you to feel who you really are, a beautiful being of light and love, who has chosen to come to this world in this body. This is our vessel. This is how we explore ourselves and the world around us. Feel it and love it. And just see that orange light moving all through you. Feel comfortable with it. It might feel strange at first, but just allow yourself to let this flow through you. Allow it to nurture you, to comfort you. Give you permission to be yourself. And just breathe. And now, is there something that you want to create in your life? A new project? A new train of thought? See it in your mind's eye as if you've already accomplished it. Or at least say to yourself, I am open to allow new and wonderful things into my life. And that may be difficult at first, but the more you do this, the more you will realize that you create your reality. And part of creating that reality is to let go of judgment, is to allow that divine feminine to flow through you. And just breathe. And know that after this meditation is over with, you have now opened up that sacral chakra. You have opened up. It's like opening a door up and letting the divine energy in. And allow it to work through you. And give thanks for that. Now just bring your awareness back to your breath. As you did in the beginning, take a long, slow, deep breath in, making you aware of your physical body as you exhale. Breathe in again. And exhale. Now, if you're comfortable in doing so, do with your next exhalation, do the sound of Om. The Om is a sound that represents all of creation, that perfect balance of masculine and feminine. As you breathe in, Om. And then just open your eyes, feeling relaxed and knowing that that will still move through you. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Janice. We're all going to be at Mellow for a few minutes while we head to our last commercial break. And we're going to follow this conversation up with some tips and tools at the end of this. So definitely stay tuned. You're listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@MilicaJelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, sweet pleasure seekers. Today's conversation is about the divine feminine with Reverend Janice Chrysler. And if you missed the last segment, you're just chopping on or jumping in with us right now, you missed a meditation that you can absolutely go back and listen to in the podcast form on all the recordings through over 250 different places that you can locate this. So how fun is that? And we have a few minutes left before the end of the show. One of my thoughts is, I'm wondering what are some things that people could maybe be aware of as, like, we'll call them maybe warning signals to go, hey, wait a second, I need to tap the divine feminine right now because something's lacking. What are some things that they could be aware of?
I think the biggest thing, or one of the biggest thing, is when our ego gets chatting too much, because it's the one that tends to bring us down. Not that we don't need the ego, we need that for certain things, but when it gets ruling us more, that's the one that takes away our confidence, what makes you feel that you're worthy of this, what makes you feel that you can even do this, what will other people think? And it's just like, whoa, I am worthy. I do need these things. And to me, that's where the divine feminine comes in. She's the one, she's like that nurturing mother, that perfect one, that, is always telling us how great we are and how we can do anything we put our mind to. And so when we find ourselves going down that rabbit hole of negativity, that's when we need to put on the brakes and allow ourselves to really connect with ourselves, to feel that love inside ourselves, and appreciate it and know that we're worthy of it. Damn it. It's there's nothing wrong with feeling that you're worthy of these things. I think too often we've maybe grown up, or we've thought for some reason that it's a vain thing to feel that we're worthy to have things in our life and to have joyful things and to be creative and all of that. So I think that's one of the signs, is if the ego starts taking over too much and you find yourself really doubting yourself a lot, to stop and do a meditation where you connect to yourself. And what is it I desire? What are my truths?
Those are great questions, because so many times we're living other people's truths and we don't even realize it. So starting to explore, like, what is my truth? We talked a little bit about this on the interview you did with me too, with the question of, like, what is the divine feminine to me? What is that? So those are great tools, meditation. Some people are like, well, I just can't do that. So what is it for you? All of these things will come into play. And believe it or not, when I think when I started meditating, I was about 16 or 17. And at first I did it with friends, and we would light a candle in the house we would pitch a tent in the basement. And we had this, we called it the duck of truth. It was a duck candle, and we lit it and we would meditate with the duck of truth. And at the time, it was just kind of like a corny, fun thing to do. We didn't really see it as like valid. It was just a fun thing. We heard about meditation stuff. We heard people could like levitate. So let's try this, right? And then it actually became a practice. So you might even take it as a joke at first, and it can actually become a daily life practice. Sometimes it's those things that you do take as jokes that you start to find out that you actually really like and you enjoy. It's like dancing like a fool, and then you find out you actually really like dancing. When you don't take things too seriously, it can be a lot more fun, that's for sure. The divine feminine is fun. It
is fun, and it's okay. We don't need to take ourselves too seriously, but we're the only ones that can answer those questions. And it's amazing how uncomfortable people are. And you mentioned this at the beginning, how uncomfortable people can be when you start to ask those soul questions, like, who am I? What is it I desire? And what is my purpose? I think it's because they don't have the answers and they don't want to think about it. But everything we do in our life revolves around how we answer those questions. So when someone does say to you, well, what's the divine feminine to you? And they go, I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about. Well, think about it. What would that be to you? And it's those kind of conversations. And I mean, probably go over it a little too much, is that I can be watching a commercial on television and it'll somehow twig something in my head, nothing to do with the commercial, but it'll be, that just got me to thinking. I did that one night, and my husband turned the television off and he says, okay, where are you going with this? So he knew I was in for a conversation. But I like that. I like to kind of I like to have fun, but I like to also kind of look at the deeper things, what's going on in your head. Or what's going on in my head.
There are a lot of deep conversations from a lot of shows, I'm sure, coming out these days. I find I can get inspiration from a lot of things, and sometimes they create show topics or they create other things in my life. So being an observer, like you were talking about, Janice, like kind of watching people, listening to them, can give you a lot of inspiration to create your life, for sure. We have 30 full seconds left. So I want to remind everybody to go to check out Janice's website, which is mindfuljourney.ca. And she has lots of different things on there. You can get recordings of her meditations. You can get her book. You can get, she makes incense too. I don't know if you sell that on your website.
No, I don't sell those. No.
Yeah. Okay, lots of stuff. You can get that in person from her though. So thank you so much for being on, Janice. And we're going to have a great week next week. So stay tuned in and turned on.
Thank you for listening to The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. The Pleasure Zone returns next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by choosing to be turned on and tuned in to your body.